Are you close enough to this mic?
Check. Yeah.
Okay.
No problemo. All right, there we are. We are live. No editors, no filters, no net. This is Jimmy Doane Show, everybody. Coming in a little bit early to make up for being late a few times. So, today is the 6th of May, 2020. Still in COVID crisis situation here.
Yes.
I'm with Dr. Doane. I'm going to post a copy of this up on YouTube right away, and then I'll timestamp the subjects later tonight. You can also find us over on Twitter and around the web in audio format if you search for Doane, D-O-A-N-E. So, what is happening? What's going on?
Well, okay. Look at this. What happened? Okay, good. I've got to get my hair cut sometime.
Well, it's windy out here. We're on the rooftop.
That's right. Yeah, it's windy. That's right. So you can tell that I've been sequestering in place because I haven't had.
We have our Canadian veneer going on here.
Is that what it is? Okay. I don't know.
The white, you know, here in Florida, what happens every year about September, some people show up who look like they've been covered in snow for 9 months.
In September?
Well, they come at all times, actually.
No, they come down here. What are you talking about?
December. There's another season in December. Is that what you're thinking of? That's probably the real one.
Right. The real one is, yeah, they come down here for the Christmas, for Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Right. And
they've
been snowed in for 6 months.
Yeah, you can't tell them. If they were to fall in the snow, you'd never find them. I don't mean they're white, but racism. Okay.
That's right. We can say that because we're super white also.
That's right. I'm right. That's right. Exactly. Okay.
Hey, Wendy.
We got some coronavirus stuff that we're going to talk about.
Okay.
Experts.
Top
men. Got a lot of top men today.
Oh, yeah?
Top men clash over whether the killer coronavirus has mutated. Now, apparently, scientists say, these are other experts, say the claims are unfounded despite a separate study finding the strain in the UK has evolved to be more infectious. Now, what's interesting, apparently there's a not peer-reviewed, but some people in Glasgow, or in Scotland at any rate.
Edinburgh,
yeah. They said they don't find any evidence one way or the other, but these people came out and said, no, they found a new strain that is more lethal, or not lethal, but more contagious.
Yeah.
And of course, my first thought was, well, then, if you're going to develop a vaccine, and you've got, according to this government study released yesterday, found that a dozen different strains are circulating around UK and the EU in March. So what I'm wondering is, once you come up with your magic wand, whatever it is, your serum cure, what happens if it's one of the other dozen strains?
Well, right, and the answer is maybe, maybe not. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah.
And look, as we talked about before, this thing mutates on average right now about once a month.
Okay.
At last report, when last we left our heroes. And as we talked about also, a random mutation usually would cause the demise of the organism.
Right.
But occasionally it does something else like this and could make it more contagious. And I think that explains a lot if that's out there, because the numbers really only make sense if this thing is more widely prevalent than it appears to be.
Well, I'm glad you brought that point up, because I did look at the video you sent me.
Oh, okay.
From 1976.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, this was in the midst of the swine flu, where there were hundreds of thousands of deaths. Interestingly enough, as the comments stated on this video, this is a Mike Wallace 60 Minutes thing.
Yeah.
They interviewed people who
Jack Rhodes.
Yeah, exactly, Jack Rhodes. So
he sent it to us. This is what I mean.
Oh, is that
yeah.
Who sent it to us? Okay, good. Yeah, one of our erstwhile helpful alternate performer people, whatever, in the old Jimmy Doane show. The deal was, though, that they interviewed people who did not get vaccinated. One of them was Mary Tyler Moore. Why didn't you? And then they interviewed somebody who did get vaccinated and went into total paralysis, and horrible thing and everything because of the vaccine.
Guillain-Barré syndrome or whatever.
Whatever it was, right. And of course, the thinking was, what was interesting about this was two things. Of course, there's 60 Minutes, which of course at the time was watched by a lot of people, but still there was only a 1 hour show once a week. And the deal is, we didn't have the 24/7 news thing that we have today. There were 3 stations, that was it. This was one of them, Mike Wallace.
You waited up to watch 60 Minutes. I mean, in terms of the week,
right? Exactly.
It was like, okay, this is coming on Sunday.
And there were no VCRs then.
Right.
We didn't tape it.
No, I mean, if you didn't, that's what I'm saying. If you didn't watch it Sunday at 7 or whatever, it was
whatever time it was, then you didn't get it. So the point being that this was an expose, of course, about the nastiness of the vaccines, in a way, and also the number of people that were being influenced by this. But there were no shutdowns. Nobody, there wasn't any masks running around people. There wasn't social distancing. There was none of this stuff that we have today that our little petty tyrants have decided to use this as an excuse. Locally here, interestingly enough, our county commission has decided that all retail establishments, they've expanded on our local, our state governor guy's stuff, and said if you have a retail establishment, all your employees must wear masks, and anybody entering the establishment shall wear a mask.
Yeah, well, we're in one of those zones where, like you say, somebody who's just gonna overreach just a little bit in terms of the government.
Well, we've seen a couple people that did.
Yeah, well, it's popping up, and this is what I predicted last week. You're going to see in pockets everywhere. And the good news is that these little these things will very quickly be stamped out and pushed back. People will not tolerate being told what to wear or to stay in your homes. You can't lock innocent, healthy people in their homes. That's not a thing. That's a house arrest, and they haven't done anything. And so you just can't do that. There's no authority for them to do that. And so they have these things like this woman was arrested. I'm sure you saw the woman who tried to open her
Texas hair salon.
That's her, yeah.
Texas hair salon. She got 7 days in jail.
Shelley Luther is her name.
Now, she's already raised $800,000 in a GoFundMe.
I was going to say, I saw when it was $150. I was like, man, that thing's going up every minute.
It's like $800,000 for her legal defense.
Right.
And of course, it's obvious that there's a total legal defense here. I mean, there's no way. The judge should be thrown out. The judge should have laughed it out.
Well, and that's the whole point. This is interesting because what this is actually is a 9th Amendment issue.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
These are rights which are so implicit in everyday reality,
right,
that you would never think to question them. The right to open her business, of course she can open. Of course she can open her business.
Yeah, you don't need an amendment for that.
No, well,
this is the 9th Amendment. That's the one that you. This is all the other stuff that we haven't talked about. That doesn't. You can still do all those things.
Exactly. Yeah. Of course you can open your business. Of course you can go outside. Of course you don't have to wear some sort of government mandated face covering. I mean, Fauci came out today. He's going to get pilloried for this, and said, if you're healthy, you don't need a mask. And of course, the pushback is going to be, well, you don't know if you're healthy. You could be asymptomatic.
That's right.
And so, but and yeah, sure, that's true. But look. Here's what everybody needs to take a view of, is that these are simple issues of limited information. And we have systems to deal with situations where there's limited amount of information. It mostly involves freedom.
Yeah.
And so if you don't know what's going on, you let the individuals make their own choices. And people will do things like self-quarantine if they think they feel bad, or if they think they're sick, they're certainly going to wear a mask. Nobody wants to get anybody else sick. People are going to act prudently. But you have to, if you don't know, then, like I said, you can't lock up everybody. And
well, it's interesting you mentioned that because, you know, they have been talking about these various states, and they said that Newsom, for instance, in California, declared that California was in a lockdown.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, wait, that's what they do in jails.
That's not a thing.
That's what they clang everybody back in your jail. I mean, what are you, a lockdown for the state?
Right.
Are you nuts? I mean,
right.
that word tells you everything.
In his defense, Gavin Newsom is afraid that if Californians go back to their normal routine too quickly, that they're going to get infected. And he's also worried they may catch coronavirus. So he's got...
Not his problem.
Well, it's a joke. It was a joke in there. There was he infected, and then they get coronavirus. Never mind.
Okay, good. That's funny. That's funny. The thing that gets me about this, of course, is with our county commission here, it's a decree. I mean, they just voted on it. This is
right. Well, they can't do that.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. They voted. It was like 5-4 or whatever the hell it was, and they talked about it for 3 or 4 hours on. And what was interesting was the discussion was by Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody was in their house or whatever. And so I don't know who got to say what. They supposedly got to phone in some stuff. But it wasn't like a regular, normal discussion where people got to stand up as we used to be able to do downtown here.
You mean you didn't get your 3 minutes?
No, I didn't get my 3 minutes. That's right, down at the podium.
That's interesting. I wonder if it legally qualifies as a meeting if there's no citizen input, right?
Well, there was supposedly citizen input, but it was on a phone line or it was on your computer. Well, what happens if you didn't have one? What happens if you didn't have Zoom?
Checked the email account.
Well, not only that, of course, So the point being to me that this woman, you know, said when they came by, and apparently they gave her several warnings, and finally they came by and they arrested her. Mm-hmm. Salon owner Shelley Luther was sentenced to 7 days in jail, refusing to shut down her business in accordance with these stay-at-home orders.
Right.
She reopened her Dallas business salon a la mode
saloon
on April 24th and repeatedly ignored court orders to close up shop. And the county judge found Luther in criminal contempt of court and ordered her to pay $7,000 in a fine to the court. He offered to commute her sentence if she apologized for being selfish. Now, wait a minute.
And you know what? She said no.
Yeah, I know she did. She said no. She says, I hate to disagree with you, sir. I have to disagree with you, sir. But when you say that I'm selfish because feeding my kids is not selfish. Now, the thing about it, what's saying about this is, here's the judge saying $7,000, 7 days in jail, $1,000 a day, 7 days in jail. But if you apologize, all is forgiven. I'm thinking, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You disobeyed the law or you didn't. You know, an apology. Well, how about my murder justification? I'm sorry, I killed the guy. Can I go now?
That's right. Well, obviously, that underlies the lack of seriousness in the charges against her. I mean, clearly she's operating what is an innocuous business outside of the coronavirus situation. Obviously, it's a beneficial thing since it's a business, but. Here we are in a situation where they're gonna restrict her freedom. I mean, jail. That means that's criminal. That means it's a criminal situation. And under what theory of law? I mean, not only has she not hurt anybody. I mean, you talk about a victimless, intentless crime.
Yeah.
And this is some hypothetical person who has to also leave their residence. You know, one thing we should point out about...
Well, and of course her kids are at home. She's wanting to feed her kids, so they can put her in jail. I guess her husband's going to have to take care of the kids.
Yeah, or they'll take the kids.
Take the kids, that's right.
Yeah.
Child abuse.
Well, yeah. And don't think they won't investigate her as well. But my point was that the theory of the lockdown relies on, it's a fallacious theory on its face because it relies on the concept that the vulnerable go out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so in other words, if there's no lockdown, the vulnerable can still stay and self-sequester.
Right.
And then they won't get exposed. And if there's a bunch of people out there who are asymptomatic carriers, they just pass it around and there's still no harm to the vulnerable. So they can sequester themselves. It's a solution versus the other thing, which is you have to lock up literally everybody. And that's not going to happen.
I just wonder what the judge was thinking, because when you give an ultimatum like this, and the ultimatum is death or freedom, I mean, and of course...
This woman, I don't know, maybe she was doing it for political purposes. Usually, when the judge gives you say you're sorry or do 70, your attorney goes, smacks you and says, take the damn apology. Get out of it with the word. I mean, don't take it on the chin. The government will punish you, and they will have no bones about it. You could get killed in the jail in the 7 days. Don't take the chance. And of course, $7,000. I don't know, but like I said, maybe she's rich. Maybe she's about to
runs a hair salon. How rich can you be?
Well, if she has 3 salons in California somewhere,
Dallas, Texas, and
Dallas. Okay, I don't know. It said she has at least.
Don't make that assumption. I'm assuming that's her only place, and she doesn't make $7,000 in a week.
I'm with you. I think that's most likely the situation, and I hope that's the situation. But now she's got $800,000 in legal fee defense.
Yeah. Well,
I hope she crushes them.
No, she will. She will.
Yeah, like I said,
there's no question, and it'll be the blowback on the judge has got to be, I would think, would be pretty monumental.
Well, I wouldn't think the judge. I would think it would be the city, whoever created this stupid rule. And there's a city attorney who signed off on it at some point and should have said, under what authority are we doing this, by the way? What's our mandate here? And they go, health rule 1642. Right. Which, in the event of a pandemic, and what if it's a real pandemic? They're willing to do this with a flu, basically, here now, as we're learning, and yet, what if this was a 50% killer? I mean, can you imagine that they would have any reservations about doing anything?
Yeah.
No. They would lock everybody in with no problem.
Yeah. Well, again, what unfortunately, this has given free rein to the petty tyrants.
Well, that's what I'm hoping is that we establish some precedents with this situation. Like, I hope this woman wins a precedent in court, and they even cite the 9th Amendment. Somebody says, hey, by the way, this is in the Constitution. She can operate her business. And by the way, quarantine is for the sick, not the healthy. Mm-hmm. Right. And by the way, if people are still worried about it, they can self-quarantine. The other healthy, vulnerable people can keep themselves out of the situation. So you rely on individuals to deal in situations where there's a limited amount of information.
Well, not only that, when you look at the way the quarantine is handled, they've tried, like here, I haven't read the entire thing from the county. It's pretty long, big thing. A bunch of, 10, 15, 20 pages of the order for the quarantining order, whatever it is. But they've supposedly tried to cover all the bases. But you can't.
Must have masks.
You can't. Well, the point is they said retail establishments, unless you have a medical, unless you have a certificate, your papers that says you have trouble breathing through a mask, then you can go in without a mask.
Right.
I look at myself, for instance, double lung transplant, and I'm on immune drugs and everything.
Diplomatic immunity.
Well, that's the other thing is that we had here. I was looking at the comments on our Facebook page locally here, and that was what somebody said was. Diplomatic immunity or qualified immunity, because maybe the commissioners, they can pass any law they want, and nobody's going to hold them accountable. They're just, I would think you would. Well, you can hold them accountable at the voting booth, but not really.
The only thing is this is the thing that Attorney General Barr actually said that he was going to address.
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing. A city commission or county commission overstepping its legal authority into areas that really are protected at multiple levels.
And of course, what I've always said is, unfortunately, whether you like it or not, the old adage of might makes right. is
for a short period of time, you got to do what they say.
right. I mean, because they will send the SWAT team.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that at their beck and call, our county commissioners, Sheriff Sadie Darnell here. Sadie, there's somebody violating. Would you please send, the big tank cup, the Bearcat,
Open fire.
the Bearcat, and your SWAT team.
Shell them from your current position.
That's right, exactly. So, I'm you as you say, it'll probably come out. I noticed another one here. A Texas bar owner. Quarantine protesters arrested after a SWAT team swoops in. There's a bar owner decided to go open up, and what happened was there was a dozen or so armed guys, guys with guns and everything, to protect the bar. Well, they didn't do anything, of course, because the SWAT team showed up. What are you going to do? So everybody surrendered, and I think, let's see, a SWAT team in Odessa, Texas, arrested a bar owner and a group of armed men conducting a peaceful protest against the lockdown on Monday after police say they violated the state's order to remain closed. So this is a bar that, somebody, like you say, they were probably doing it as a statement. Yeah. But they gave in, and everything. But, the SWAT team comes in and you're sitting there thinking, a SWAT team?
Well, that was a funny. You could see the video. The quote unquote SWAT team. They did have an armored vehicle. Yeah. But the two of the fattest cops I've ever seen were like the two guys with the M16s walking up there. Yeah. And but look, there was obviously no resistance or anything, and they've tried to paint these protesters as violent, swastika wielding. Like they talked about, I saw one character. It's a violent protest. Well, no, it's not.
Wasn't at all.
Nothing happened.
No.
Nothing happened. That's the point. And so.
Well, there is another one. Talk about violent, and I got another thing here before we go too far, and that is they had a video of these two cops. Separating a guy. They threw him on the ground or whatever, New York.
Separating a guy from his consciousness?
Yeah, not quite. But they threw him on the ground and everything because he wasn't social distancing. And of course, immediately, now what's happened, and there was a video. Yeah. The cops were reassigned immediately to desk duty. They said, way overdone. But the New York, of course, right away, the New York City Police Union claims the city will fall apart unless the cops are taken off social distancing enforcement.
Yeah, well, it is one of those things that is a step too far. And what happens is, I've just described the situation, this phenomenon a lot. Look, even criminals know what crime is, and they don't like it. Even a thief doesn't want to be stolen from. Okay. Okay, but and so they if they get caught, they understand that what they did was wrong, and they give up and they go and take their punishment. Mm-hmm. It's all part of the psyche and everything. If you start punishing normal people for doing normal stuff, like eating carrots or something, you're going to get a huge resistance because these people inherently know they're not doing anything wrong. And so something like social distancing, if these people have decided that they're not in any danger, then to them, not abiding by the social distance is not doing anything wrong. And so if you try to enforce that on them, you're going to get an incredible blowback. And it's not going to be the same as when you just heavily police an area. It's going to be much more like just walking in there because the people are black or something, and where's your papers, please, and stuff. It's like, it's one of those things where they're not going to put up with that. But I think all these little pockets, all these little places will get pushed back quickly. Within a number of days of them coming out, they'll retreat. And I'm hoping that the people who stand up and, like, Miss Luther, and take it on the chin, and I hope these people get compensated and also establish a nice precedent so that if this situation comes up again and there's a real Ebola crisis or something, that we all have some legal precedent to point to and say, look, we can go out of our houses if we want to, if we think we're healthy.
I'm interested, of course, when you talk about the social distancing, there's this 6 feet business. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what, 5.5?
Well, exactly. People have talked about that. People have gone into the arbitrariness of the 6 foot distance.
Totally are. Well, not only that,
You know, it has to do with the relative power of a sneeze and talking and that kind of stuff. It's like, what?
How do you codify that?
Well, you guess.
Well, of course you do. You guess.
Right.
That's the whole point. Yeah, that's what the 6 feet, I guess, is all about. I'm sitting here thinking about it wasn't all that long ago. It's less than 100 years ago. If you went out on the beach, they would measure your suit on a women to see if too much of your leg was showing.
There you go.
I mean, literally, they had cops out there measuring, going up. God, are you kidding me? You have to get off the beach because you're below the knee, okay, but not enough.
And one of the great videos this week was this police helicopter flying over Santa Monica Beach, broadcasting, "For your own safety, get off the beach, go home. The virus is out here."
Well, one of the things that I find interesting around town here, somebody, I guess it's a university, I'm not sure, has posted these little signs. They're about.
Oh, yeah.
They're all over the place. There's hundreds of them.
And they say, "Stay at home," right?
Be a superhero.
Yeah.
Superhero.
Right.
Not just a hero.
Right.
In other words, you are equivalent. If you stayed home,
right.
Here you are driving down the road. Here's the sign, says "Go home."
Right.
Be a superhero. Now, are you exactly the equivalent of a nurse putting in an 18-hour day in a COVID place or whatever, or in a nursing home? The nurses in the nursing home. Are you equivalent to that superhero?
Well, not even that. We have spent hundreds of years trying to motivate our public to get out of the house and go to do something, be productive, be part of society. And now the entire public policy campaign right now is, don't do that. Just be a couch potato. For the love of God, stream some Netflix.
Well, it's also interesting that they have closed, some of the places they closed were jogging trails.
That's what
I mean, what are you talking about? How much virus is there floating around on a goddamn... You hear you're running past somebody.
Oh, you got it. There you gave it. That other person with zero lung.
It's just, it is so stupid on its face, and yet all these petty tyrants are loving it. Got to be loving it.
Well,
how would you sit down and have the gall to sit there and say...
Well, because they believe that somebody has to make a decision for everybody.
Right.
This is the fallacy of the need for a ruler, basically. You'll hear the complaints. People who complain about the policy that their particular governor has enacted will say, "Oh my God, such and such governor is killing us because one policy or the other," as if everybody has to do what that governor says. Like they just, and so if you're that person, if you're that governor, obviously people who are left-leaning have more inclination to do this type of
it's the law.
Well, not only that, but it needs to be the law. Something has to be the law, and it has to be the right decision. And so when you put people in that position, they're going to make some decision, and they're going to split the baby half the time, and they're going to get it wrong most of the time. And they're certainly not going to get it right for all the individuals involved. That's the problem is that there are different individuals. It's right or wrong for different individuals, no matter what policy it is. And you need to let the individuals make those choices. If somebody needs to stay home, or if somebody needs to go to work, they get to weigh that, and not you as the county commissioner.
Of course, a lot of this goes into where the basis of the law is. For instance, some of the comments on the lady in Texas who said, well, she defied a court order. Well, yeah, but I mean, what makes you think the court order was even legal? I mean, the reason we have a Supreme Court is because when there are laws that violate the Constitution, they're illegal.
Right.
And the court says that was illegal.
And that's what's going to happen to almost all of these things. And that's why I'm hoping that there'll be some type of big decision. It would be great if it went to the Supreme Court.
We'll see. We'll find out. Because again, just because it's the law doesn't make it legal.
Yeah.
And even in spite of what Palpatine said,
I will
make it legal.
Well, and one other thing we should talk about, and that is the motivation. I've heard a lot this week of, you hear the one life is precious argument that's out there.
We have to protect the vulnerable.
Well, and here's the thing people need to remember. Go online and you will find those videos of what looks like tens of thousands of people in lines for food in third world countries. And we now are getting some of the numbers for things like tuberculosis and things like the normal killers of people that are going on right now, and how the supply chains for the treatment for those people has been interrupted. So you want to talk about actual deaths? I guarantee you that a complete shutdown of the U.S. economy for several months will kill more people outside the United States than we would lose from coronavirus inside the United States. And
again, I'm sure there's a lot. The whole thing is so stupid. Yeah,
that's it.
Anyway, let me move along here.
Sure.
We're talking a little bit about two things. One, the Democrats it says the headline is, the Democrats aim to squeeze Republicans on the next coronavirus relief package. House Democrats hope to finish the next $1 trillion aid bill by the end of the week. I think that's by the end of this week. Today's Wednesday, so by the end of maybe vote on it. They're thinking about calling the House back in session maybe next week to vote on this. The Senate has already been supposedly called back, of the 100 people in the Senate plus all their people, to vote on stuff. But top House Democrats Monday signaled they're forging ahead with the next sweeping relief package, aiming to increase the pressure on the GOP leaders who have rejected Democrat priorities in previous bills. On a private call, the Speaker and her deputies sketched the outline of the $1 trillion plus package that would deliver aid to state and local governments. So now, the next in line, we've had $3 trillion allocated, most of it. There's apparently still battle over half of the trillion, 500 billion or something, on how that gets distributed. But some deliver aid to state and local governments who are on the brink of public service cuts. And while they want to shore up safety net programs for the nation's most vulnerable. We have to think big, said Nancy. And I thought this was interesting. In the call Monday, Pelosi stressed the, quote, ethics of the next relief package, saying Democrats were focusing on, quote, an ethical approach to saving lives, to how this money should be distributed and how the drugs are administered, according to sources. But so here she is talking about the ethics of this and the most vulnerable, and it's another $1 trillion. I'm sitting there thinking this.
Well, you wouldn't want to leave out the most vulnerable in your first multi-trillion-dollar efforts.
Apparently they did.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Look, this is the easiest sell. Now they'll all come out and say, well, now we have to help Main Street.
Yeah.
It has to be for Main Street this time.
Well, the cities are floundering.
Yeah.
They're really having a problem. Their safety net is going away, and because of all the main thing, of course, we're seeing here in Florida is the unemployment thing, cash, whatever, stash, because a lot of people are applying for unemployment. With 30 million people so far in the country have applied for unemployment benefits.
Yeah.
Where's that money coming from?
Well,
the feds.
Yeah.
Which, of course, people don't quite understand. Ultimately, it comes from us. I mean, now, although the feds can print it, which is what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it comes from all dollar holders.
Right. All dollar holders, especially the savers.
Yeah. I guess they're hoping to hurt people overseas more. But
again,
they're actually not hoping anything.
I gotta say, they're not. I keep saying this. Hope is not a business plan.
It is to them.
It is to them. I know it is, and that's what's tragic. You expect to do this, maybe.
Well, this is my idea of what's going to happen here with the lockdown here. This is my meme here. So from my perspective, people are not going to stay at home any longer. They're out, they're about, and I'm just hoping that the governors and the city people and the county people caved quickly, let everybody open up their
They
business.
just get some cojones.
We were at a restaurant, corporate. I went to dinner with corporate.
Okay, I did not go.
And we were the only two people in the entire side of a restaurant that normally has 40 people in it.
Yeah.
And it halfway through, another 3 top of people came in. Two adults and a child came in. So needless to say, they are not exactly doing gangbusters business, at least Monday, which was the first day. And I expected there to be a line. Now, as I say, corporate is very prompt, and so we were there like when the door was opening. She still had the key in the door.
Right.
Get in!
Get in. We're going to eat here.
Exactly.
Well, it is one of the things that is interesting is that say you were there, what, an hour and a half?
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of people could have come in.
Yeah, they could have.
The thing being that people are still scared. I mean, you wonder at what point are people going to say, I'm going to go eat out anyway?
Well, right. And I'm thinking,
and how long is that going to take?
I'm thinking a couple of weeks at most. By the end of this month, it'll be over.
Well, that's we'll have to put this on your calendar for the first Jimmy Doane in June.
Every person who meets a friend who isn't wearing a mask and is out doing stuff that's normal is going to be like, man, I want to go do that stuff. And so they're going to. Now, one thing interesting, they had obviously been visited by code enforcement.
No.
Oh, yeah.
How could you tell?
Because they had moved. Not only was there not people sit down, but they had moved a bunch of tables out of the way. So they were gone, tables were gone, chairs were gone, and the booths that they couldn't move had signs on them that said, do not seat here. So
now, corporate loves booths.
I know. And fortunately, we were there and we got one.
Okay.
But we were like alone on the wall in booth section. And then...
How many service people were there? Wait staff?
I don't know how many. Our particular server was very excited to have customers.
I'll bet.
She was so happy. She was giddy. And
Giddy.
I mean, seriously, would have brought us anything that we wanted. I mean, we could have said, go out to the parking lot.
Yeah, right.
Bust into a car and get us a radio. And she'd have done it. But I hope that people understand, and by people, I mean city leaders and county leaders. Restaurants cannot survive on 25%. No chance.
Not only that.
No chance.
They're already closing down. There are places, I'm going to talk about this in a minute, and they're not alone. But there are a number of restaurants that are already permanently closing because they've run out of money totally, and they can't make their payments and so forth. We can move on a lot. Let me just go on back here on page 1 here, something that I have.
Okay.
And I want to talk about another big fear in life is national security and global health experts, aka top men, are increasingly concerned China will develop a coronavirus vaccine first. Now, why would we be scared of that? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you talking about? Is this some kind of a race to the moon? The thing that gets me about it is, so what? Number one. Now, number two, why wouldn't they? They've got
it came
100 million people.
I mean, wet market.
Whatever. They've got 100 million people to test on.
Right.
I mean, they have got...
For an additional month.
I mean, you talk about human trials.
Yeah, exactly.
Human trials are starting tomorrow morning.
The Uyghurs, man.
Yeah, exactly. The Uyghurs, that's right. The point being that they've got everybody in the world to
no
start
disrespect.
the human trials. Of course they're going to come up with something ahead of time. They've got who cares?
Well, like you said, who cares? It's not like if they get it, we can't get it.
Well, that's not only that.
It's the opposite. If they get it, we get it.
Well, not only that, if it can be gotten,
right.
This is one of the things that happens.
That's another thing, exactly.
That's another thing. If it can be gotten, guess what?
4-minute mile, exactly.
That's right. It's the 4-minute mile, exactly right. Or airplane. Nobody. There were guys in 1905 in England who said man will never fly. This was 2 years after the Wright brothers, and there's some head of something man cannot fly. So you're right. Once the 4-minute mile is a perfect example. The next week or two, everybody's bucking through it. So. The thing about it is China has advanced a great deal in its research capabilities and has gotten a major head start on COVID vaccines and treatments. Okay, so what? All you have to do is to suddenly see that they're vaccinating, their whole population, and the next day you can bet that Pfizer or somebody around here is going to be coming up with something.
Seriously, our James Bond equivalent will have kidnapped some little Chinese person in no time. And
well, the other thing you got to, when you think about it for a second, I would guess that a fair number of the researchers over there were taught here in our places,
Yeah. No, I mean, the reality is they would obviously share it. It would be...
Yeah, I think they would. And
in 2 seconds. I mean, the research universe, the scientific universe is...
Right. Oh, yeah, it's pretty much wide open.
Yeah.
They'll have papers and so forth. Okay, next item I've got here is Gold's Gym has filed for bankruptcy due to the closures. Now, this is another thing. Besides the restaurants, the gyms are, basically, how do you do, when you think about it, a lot of these gyms are month to month or something like that on how you pay.
Yeah.
So anyway, Gold's Gym has filed for Chapter 11, and the 700 gyms worldwide will stay open under Chapter 11, but during the restructure. But who's going? I mean, nobody's going to the gym these days.
I would go if they would open them, but...
yeah, but one of the little minor problems you've got is you walk in there and they can have their people walking all over the place disinfecting it. You do your weights and then somebody comes right behind you and wipes it down. Hey, I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. It's just, you're not going to get rid of the virus that way.
No, but I think that people are going to assume a level of herd immunity by the time that the gym...
Well, not only that, I would guess that, and do you have to wear a mask while you're huffing and puffing?
No, of course not.
You're sitting there...
You can't. Yeah, exactly.
You got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding as you blow your mask off because you... So anyway, they permanently closed about 30 of their company-owned gyms. And, of course, it was interesting. I saw one of the comments, and one of the comments was, yeah, well, they're not what they used to be. They've let their facilities go while Planet Fitness offers everything and better. So a lot of the comments said, so what?
Yeah, I mean, you got to think Gold's Gym was one of the first big gyms way...
It was founded by a guy named Gold.
It's not... Was it really?
Yeah. Bobby Gold or
it's
whatever.
It's not as though they have not had a spectacular run.
100 years ago is when they were founded, roughly.
What?
Yeah, a long time. 70 years.
Really?
Oh yeah, California started opening. This guy's name, let's see, just Chapter 11. And,
I thought it would have been started in the 60s or the 70s.
No, I think it was,
I guess
the 60s or
60 years ago.
That's 60 years ago. So it was, it was a long time. We're
Oops.
showing our age. Whoops. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Old geezer.
Anyway, there have been a whole bunch of replacement style gyms.
Oh.
And now there's new generation stuff. You have the Orange Theory of Fitness. Hey, Barb. And there's lots of different stuff. So it wouldn't surprise me. And there's exact replacements. Like they said, there's Planet Fitness, which seems to have some sort of... their theory is just gigantism. It's, we have everything you could possibly want to work out in, and it's cheap. So, I mean, that makes sense. They get it off a location at an old Winn-Dixie or something.
It's amazing how many fitness centers we have here in town.
Yeah, well,
we've got a dozen at least.
Super healthy community, relatively speaking. People
I guess, but I mean, if you're at the university, don't you get to go work at the university gym?
Not only that, but the university has like 5 gyms of its own that are at least the size of our biggest gym outside.
Yeah.
They have these huge multiplexes with all kinds of stuff. They have like racquetball and everything. But the thing is with those gyms is you have to be a current faculty, student, or staff. You can't be like you can't be an alum.
Oh, you can't?
No. And so, unfortunately, yeah, I know.
That doesn't seem quite fair.
Because that would be like everybody in town is why.
Well, it's interesting because you can go to the library. On the university library, you can get a card if you're a citizen around here or something. So that's kind of interesting. Not that anybody goes to the library anymore.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, gyms they were going to be one of the last places. I mean, that's like you said, everybody touches everything.
Yep, they do. I mean, seriously, when you think about it, I mean, you got lockers, you got showers, you got when you think about it, you're walking around naked for God's sakes.
I know.
So
Wow.
this is just insanity. So anyway, okay. The next thing I've got here has to do with the meat shortage.
Uh-huh.
One of the things that's ironic is one of the greatest ads
Yeah.
that you've ever seen was that lady going into Wendy's. Where's the beef?
Clara.
Yeah, Clara going into Wendy's. Where's the beef? Well, it turns out there are hundreds of fast food chains locations. Wendy's are not serving hamburgers because grocery stores and grocery stores are limiting meat purchases as shoppers begin to feel the impact of meat packing plant shutdowns.
Where are these Wendy's? Is it saying?
Let's see. The problem at Wendy's, likely only the beginning of a fresh meat beef shortages.
It's not in
that
India.
may reach the huh?
Not India or anything.
No. Here in the States, they were talking about over 1,000 Wendy's apparently have put up signs saying no hamburgers. I mean, now I'm not saying you have to understand everything you had was through a drive-through anyway. I mean, and maybe they still have their fish burger or something. I don't know, but and then I wonder. Here's the other thing. I wonder at this point because I've had this. They've got their meatless hamburgers.
Yeah.
Have you ever had one of those?
No.
I have, and they're good.
Yeah,
They
apparently
are good.
that's still available.
That's still available, and that Burger King has one. They're pretty good.
Well, like you said, I'm sure the fillet of fish and the chicken sandwich is still there.
Yeah, and the chicken nuggets and all that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that one of the things that people are worried about is meat going to go the way of the toilet paper?
Yeah.
No. The fact is, as they said, they have massive refrigerators, freezers full of frozen meat. It's the fresh meat that is because of the supply chain. Fresh meat's got to be fresh.
Right.
So you slaughter it wherever you have in the meat packing, and a day later, 2 days later, it's in the store.
Yeah.
Now, if it's not, if there's a shortage of the trucks to carry the meat into the fresh meat department, they still have all the frozen meat in the world.
I have to believe that in the United States, we're going to repair our supply chains rather quickly.
I think so.
I don't see it. I mean, the supply chains outside the United States the ripple effect is going to take a month to repair or more because of all the different places you have to go through. But inside the States, all they really have to do is get a bunch of people, a bunch of truckers out there trucking, and they can ship things pretty quick.
Yeah,
So,
and of course the one thing about being a trucker, I guess, is you're pretty well social distancing whether you like it or not. I mean, you're alone in the cab, for God's sakes. The only now, of course, if you're on the road and you have to go into a truck stop and go to the bathroom, I don't know what you have to do then.
well, that's what you do.
They have showers and everything. Yeah, that's what you do, right? So those people are. Yeah,
What's
that's
up,
kind of.
TJ?
So anyway, I had when you're talking about the trucker. Oh, talking about supply chains. One of the things that I don't know if I mentioned this, the car people are having problems.
Yeah, that's another.
And one of the things they said is there are sitting offshore are these giant container ships, not container ships. I'm saying car ships with all the Nissans and the Toyota. And they're not able to unload.
Just dump them.
Yeah, just dump them. There was that one that fell over or something and dumped like 1,000 cars into the ocean.
Whoops.
They got a lot of them back, but I think somebody was trying to sell them as water damaged or something.
The
But
best story is the rubber ducky story.
what was that?
Oh, you can Google this one. So there was, there's a shoreline up in England somewhere, and every day a rubber ducky floats up to the shore.
Okay.
And it's been going on for 30 years.
Really?
Yeah, and it turns out they finally figured out. Now, what is? It's the Garfield phone or something. But they figured out obviously what happened was a giant container of these things with a hole in one piece of it fell off and became lodged in a reef basically. And so every day when the tide comes up, it's just enough to wash one of those things out of there. And it's been doing it for decades.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Yeah.
That is funny. That is funny. All right. Well, I've got the last thing I've got today is the this is another thing. There was a group of people led by an ex-SEAL guy in Venezuela and decided to overthrow Maduro. There was like a dozen of these guys that went on shore. They were arrested fairly quickly, apparently. And
Too bad.
well, I mean, they admitted flat out that they were there to overthrow Maduro. They were going to march into Caracas or whatever it was, march up the stairs, there's a dozen of these people or whatever, all armed and everything. Well, of course, they got nabbed, right? This was like Bay of Pigs in miniature. And so, Maduro got these guys out, and apparently they said, "Yeah, we were down here to overthrow the Maduro thing and so forth."
Yeah.
I mean,
they started to suspect us when we put on our war paint on the plane.
well, they came in a boat apparently, some rubber raft or something. I don't know. They hit the shore, and so now, according to this article, they're mercenaries, and they were going to they were a failed plot to invade the country and oust Maduro. I was thinking, what are they thinking? What are you? Have you gone nuts? So they what they did, what they took off, what Maduro was showing on the state TV was showing their passports and identity cards. Now wait a minute.
Why would you bring your...
What are you talking about? You're swimming ashore as a Navy SEAL,
That's
and
right.
you've got your passport.
So got your passports on you in case you get stopped.
Yeah, it's just, I've got my passport, okay. Can I get a visa? Stamp?
Right. That's right.
Oh my God.
This gun?
Right. So anyway, the Venezuelan government has said that more than 25,000 troops have been mobilized to hunt for other rebels operating in the country. So
I'm surprised Maduro's lasted this long.
I am blown away.
2020. Hard to believe. I mean, Chavez, I guess they killed him with the cancer or whatever.
Yeah.
And but somehow Maduro has survived. And,
it's amazing.
Yeah, and not even with $20 oil at this point.
Yeah, that's another amazing thing. Well, they're not selling much. I mean, that's the whole problem is the supply line's all gone down. It's not like they're filling up barges with this oil because there's a, what do you call it, embargo on.
Yeah, well, and obviously they shut down their capacity when they threw out all the real administrators.
Yeah, well, the real guys who knew how to run the pumps.
That's right.
Yeah. So anyway, that's
Just
what I
switch right here, huh?
Yeah, right. It says, it's in English, it says on. What does that mean? Let me look this up.
Another crazy, just anecdotal story about over policing. Did you see? I mean, this. I hesitate to even say this because it almost can't be real. But did you see the girl dressed in the Star Wars stormtrooper outfit?
Yes.
Getting arrested.
Because she was carrying
on Star Wars Day.
A Star Wars. Oh yeah, here it is. It was the 4th of May.
May the 4th.
May the 4th. She's in a white uniform, the white Star Trooper, and she's carrying a gun.
A working blaster.
A working blaster. Right. So they arrested her, and you sit there thinking, what were you thinking? It's May the 4th. I mean,
she's in a costume. I mean, nobody does anything bad in a costume. You can go down to MegaCon every year.
right.
And except for, well, actually, this year it's been pushed back, so you can still go, apparently. And there are people walking around with guns the size of just...
Monster bazookas.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Monster bazookas. And guess what? Nobody's concerned. No, not even a little bit.
No, the only time people care is when they want to come and take a picture of you.
Yeah.
I mean if you come in dressed something crazy like that, the only thing that happens to you are the number of snaps that people take.
Exactly. It's
just no. I saw that. As I say, the lunacy. You wonder at what point are these people going to go home and have their kids say, "Dad or Mom, what are you, what?"
Yeah, well, you got to think, most of them have got to be feeling bad right now. But
I don't understand why they don't, feel bad ahead. I mean, you're sitting there and you're on your Zoom thing like the county commission was, and you can see the other people, and how can you not feel just like this stupidest, most foolish person on the planet?
They're saving lives.
The vulnerable.
That's it.
And of course, what's interesting about it is they're now really trying to save the old people. What's a couple things. There's a huge number of them, of course, are in nursing homes, elderly people in nursing homes.
Get back in there.
Get back in there, right? And but apparently, kids under 4, 5, or 6 that are the vulnerable, they're not vulnerable at all. They don't get it.
Yeah, that's what I've heard some report about that. Well, we'll see. I think
they're carriers.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
you want to kill grandma.
Like I said before, it won't matter. Everybody's going out anyway. If you're worried, if you're vulnerable, stay inside, and otherwise.
I just think that the
Get a test for
instantaneous
antibodies.
knee-jerk reaction is, you want to kill grandma? No, actually, no. Yes, you do. Get back.
Well, grandma will be fine at this point. So. All right.
A little early, but that's okay. I had
Okay.
did my stuff.
Oh, yeah, we are. Let's see if anybody showed up. Not yet.
Are they self-distancing from our podcast?
Maybe so.
Hey, look, folks, I got news flash for you. We cannot put the COVID-19 through the Facebook.
That's it.
I saw where did I mention that Facebook has dissed all of the QAnon sites?
No.
Yeah, they've decided to eliminate all the conspiracy sites.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they'd already gotten what's his name off, the main guy who was the conspiracy guy. What was his name?
Cernovich or?
No, it's the guy that was on all the time.
Oh, Alex Jones.
Alex Jones, right?
Yeah.
Now QAnon has been on a lot, but apparently they've gone and who's another conspiracy guy, and apparently there's a dozen or 2 dozen conspiracy sites, and Facebook has gone through and wiped them out. So.
There you go. Dangerous ideas.
Yeah, dangerous ideas. I'm sitting there thinking they now have got apparently a Supreme Court justice of people who will evaluate these sites. Top
Man.
people at Facebook who will decide whether or not these sites
This information
are suitable.
is appropriate for your
Loose
consumption.
lips sink ships.
The Ministry of Information.
That's right, the Ministry of Truth.
That's it. All right. See you next time.